Welcome to the Low Tox Life podcast.
That's my mantra. All the healing wisdom you're ever going to need is within you. So it doesn't really matter what modality that you're using. The aim is, because it's the same thing, we talk about in homeopathy the vital force. In Chinese medicine, it's qi. In Ayurveda, it's prana. It's the same thing. But what we're doing is we're stimulating the body to heal itself. It's got all that wisdom within it. And when you say that to people, or you really embody that, that is so freeing, because you've already got it. You've just got to tap into it.
Welcome to the show. I'm Alexx Stuart, your host. New listeners, long-time listeners, as we round out another year on the show in just a couple of weeks, I want to say a huge thank you to everyone who takes the time to subscribe, leave a review, or share on social that help me help get these incredibly insightful, wonderful pioneers in the work that they do, and practitioners with so much experience get their names out there as well. I often end shows thinking, why is this person not so much better known than they are? It's because they're too busy changing the world rather than on social media. And that's no dig at people who are doing all sorts of great work to advance all sorts of causes on social media, but we often miss the quieter heroes. And that is one of my great joys, to elevate those sorts of voices. Speaking of which, Marcus Fernandez, a 30-plus year homeopath, the founder of the Centre for Homeopathic Education, which is now a global organisation helping to train homeopaths to a high-quality 4-year course of study. And I caught up with Marcus to not only discuss homeopathy generally, but health of the human on a deeper plane. I am going to leave this incredible conversation to speak for itself. A quick note from our partners, and then we'll jump right in. Waters Co Australia have been a leading alkaline remineralised filtered water solution for over a decade. In fact, first one I bought about 14 years ago. I love that not only do they take out everything from chlorine to fluoride, heavy metals, pesticide residue, herbicide residue, viruses, bacteria, PFAS, and they remineralize even the tiny compact 7-stage filter that goes into the mini Waterman and jug. The benchtop options are brilliant for families, and you have 3 to 5 years for that refill before you have to replace it. So from an economy perspective, it's also the best value for the quality of water that you get. We literally don't leave home without one of our Waters Co products. You have 15% off with the code LOWTOX15 percentage symbol. You can use the auto applied code link in the show notes under YouTube, or from our link in bio over on Instagram. You get 15% off site-wide. Very generous. It's one of my top low tox recommendations. Go check out which one is best for your home situation and budget, and make the most of it. Let's get back to the show. Marcus, hello. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, I am so excited. I think homeopathics, it's one of those, I love how easy it all sounds and how gentle it all feels, but man, I'm confused. And what the hell do I do? And how do I get confident? It's one of those modalities that feels like a lot of people are always craving more clarity, more confidence, and who better to help usher us into their next chapter of confidence than a practicing homeopath and teacher of homeopathics for over 30 years.
Yes.
How did you get drawn in? And what I always love to ask practitioners who've stayed with the same modality for decades, what kept you there? What made you think, I don't need to actually look further than this?
Anything else? Yeah, really good question. And it's funny when you use the word decades, it's like I still feel the same age as when I first discovered homeopathy. For me, I wasn't brought up with homeopathy. I came from a very working class background. You got sick, you went to the doctors, or your mum took you to the doctors, to get, which you never wanted to go to, and have this horrible medicine that made you feel sick. So, it was a very traditional sort of family upbringing. So we didn't really have, it was the 70s, it's like we didn't really have anything alternative. Well, even though there was alternative stuff going on, we didn't. And for me, I was when I discovered homeopathy, I was 20 years of age. I'd been in I was in a band. I was going to be a rock and roll star. This was
So
the
was
far.
I.
Well, there you go.
I love
Come on,
that
get the
we
guitar
found
out.
this
Let's sing
this
it.
random overlap. Yeah, I was a
Yeah,
singer and a drummer.
yeah. Well, wow, yeah. Well, so we're speaking the same language, and music was my everything. It was totally was my everything, and you know what it was like. You know, when you're in a band and you're gigging, you sort of, you never having any money. You only get paid when you did gigs, which wasn't that much.
Yeah,
And
that's why I started bartending, because I quickly
exactly,
did
yeah.
the maths and thought, yeah, this isn't going to work.
Well, this is it. And we were about to go and do a sort of like a mini tour of Germany, and we again,
Well, that's
you know,
very Beatles of you.
oh well,
You know, I
actually, we
just
did
want
go
to
to
give you
Hamburg.
props for that. Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, so we were going to do that, but I needed some money. I didn't have any cash. We only get paid at the gigs when you did the gigs. So I thought, I've got to get a job for the next few weeks. I've got to get something. And I tried to get a job everywhere, in a bar, because I used to work in all different, but couldn't get a job anywhere. And at that time, it was like 1990, 91. It was like recession in the UK. You really couldn't get any work. And the only job I could get was working in a nursing home with elderly people. Now, as a 20-year-old future rock and roll star, this was as far away from my reality as you could even get. I knew nothing about working with care or anything like that, but it was the only job, and it was like £2.50 an hour. I had no choice, so I started working there. And this was a place where it was for people with dementia, and Alzheimer's. That's what it was sort of specifically for, this particular home. So I started working there, and it was in my first week. I'm having a cup of coffee on my break, and there was a nurse there and who worked there, and we started chatting away, and she turned and she said to me, after, talking for about 10 or 15 minutes, you know what, Marcus, you'd make a great homeopath. And I went, what? I never even heard of the word. It's like this big curveball coming in. And she said, I think you make a really good homeopath. And obviously, I must have looked like, what the hell are you talking about? And she explained what homeopathy was and, how it worked. And again, it was just off the top of my head. And she said, look, I'm going to this open day. I'm gonna sign up for this course. It's a 4-year training practitioner. I think you should come with me. I went, oh, hang on a minute. I'm only here for a few weeks.
Flag.
Yeah. I'm in a band, all that sort of stuff. She said, oh no, I think you should come. I made my excuses and left, and left the break room. But every time I saw her after that, every time I bumped into her, she said, Marcus, I think you should come with me to this open. I thought maybe she's, a bit lonely. Maybe she just wants somebody to go with her. I didn't know. And in the end, really, just to shut her up, I said, okay, I'm going to come with you. I said, but I ain't going to sign up.
What a nice young man.
I know, what a nice young man I was.
Yeah.
And she was older than me. I mean, at the time, she's probably about 35, 38. And to me, that was obviously when you're 20, it seemed really old. And I thought I'll just go with her. Maybe she's just like, I don't know. But I said, I'm not going to sign up. She said, no, just come with, that'd be great. So I then roll forward a couple of weeks just before this trip to this open day. I woke up with really bad tonsillitis, and I used to get a lot of tonsillitis because I used to smoke. I was drinking. I was in pubs, clubs, work. It wasn't the healthiest of lifestyle.
I know it.
You know it. And I woke up with tonsillitis. Normally, I'd just go to the doctors, get some antibiotics. It would clear up. It would always come back, but it would sort of deal with it at the time. Anyway, that morning, I just tried to get an appointment with the GP. Doctors couldn't get in for some reason. And I thought, I'm going to try this homeopathy stuff she's been going on about. So I got a bus into town, went to the local health food store, and I saw all these remedies. I asked the woman where the remedies are. I said, at the back of the shop. So I went to the back of the store, and all these homeopathic remedies, all these weird names, arsenicum, pulsatilla, sulfur. And I saw this one remedy, Nux vomica, and I thought, hey, what a great name for a band, Nux vomica. Because all these Latin names,
Yeah.
And so anyway, there was a little pamphlet, and I looked at the pamphlet. I thought, oh, this is my remedy. It sounds like my symptoms. A remedy called gelsemium. And it sort of had this thing of like a band across the head, flu-like symptoms. So I took it, went home. I can remember this so clearly. I opened the little remedy, bottle, and there was little white pills, and I put one in my arm. I thought, right, if this works, I'm going to go to this open day. If this doesn't work, I'm not going to go. And I popped the remedy. Within 10, 15, I've fallen asleep. right, on the chair. I woke up 2 hours later and I was wringing wet, absolutely soaking wet. And I thought, wow, what the hell's this? And I took another one and I just did that all day. I remember being in the pub with my mates in the evening and they're going, my God, you look terrible. I'm like sweating. I said, you know what? I feel good though in myself. Even though I know I look like death warmed up, I actually feel good. I woke up the next morning, completely gone. And I've never had tonsillitis since. And that was 34 years ago.
Yeah, wow.
So that I thought, okay, I'm going to go to this home day. Again, I was impressed, but I wasn't going to sign up, because it's like, again, it was just, but it made me go with her to the open day. And I'm at the open day, and this guy, the late great Robert Davison, who started the first school of homeopathy here in the UK back in the 1970s. He started to speak, and he started speaking about homeopathy, what it was, his own about the remedies, about some cases. And I remember, as he's talking, I remember going really still inside. There was this stillness that I'd never experienced before. And it was like I was listening to truth for the first time. Some part of me knew this to be true at such a deep level. It wasn't from a mental level, it was somewhere deeper. And I thought, if this is true, what he's saying, how come the whole world doesn't know about it? And then my second thought was, I'm going to make sure the whole world does know about it. And I signed up. I had no way of paying for this course. I signed up.
Say yes and figure it out later.
Exactly. So
like a good Gen Xer. Yeah.
Exactly. And in my book, I say, the first line, I didn't find homeopathy, it found me. And I know it can sound a bit woo, but that was the reality, and that was 35 years ago, and I'm still here.
Yeah, it's incredible. I had recurring tonsillitis as well, and while homeopathy wasn't my solution at the time, it was naturopathic remedies, herbs, vital immune support that I was missing. It really just speaks to the fact that there are these beautiful ways to give the body the tools it needs to do the things it needs to do.
Absolutely.
And yes, you can find different ones and you can really resonate, but like the memo is tools to help the body do what it wants to do to get back to health.
Absolutely. I mean, that's my mantra. All the healing wisdom you're ever going to need is within you. So it doesn't really matter what modality that you're using. The aim is, because it's the same thing, we talk about in homeopathy the vital force. In Chinese medicine, it's qi. In Ayurveda, it's prana. It's the same thing. But what we're doing is we're stimulating the body to heal itself. It's got all that wisdom within it. And when you say that to people, or you really embody that, that is so freeing, because you've already got it. You've already got it. You've just got to tap into it.
Yeah.
So, totally agree.
So when we think of homeopathy, it sort of means different things to different people. Different people have different perceptions. What is your favorite way to describe it in the 101 sense?
Yeah. So homeopathy, it's a whole system of medicine. It looks at you mentally, emotionally, as well as physically. And the main principle of homeopathy is the principle of like cures like. Okay, this is the cornerstone. So if anybody listening remembers anything, is to remember this. And basically what the law of similars is if you chop an onion up, your eyes water and your nose runs. Well, we use onion in a very diluted form, and what we call succussion, which I can explain later, for people with the same symptoms. So say you've got a cold or cough or whatever, your eyes are streaming, nose running, which like same as you chop up an onion. The same thing is for example, coffee. You drink a lot of coffee, you get very sort of like your nervous system gets wound up, and your mind's full of ideas, you're all over the place, you can't sleep. Well, we use coffee in its homeopathic form called kefir for people who have those symptoms who haven't drank coffee. So whatever can cause something in a large amount, in a small amount, it can cure it. And that's the basis of homeopathy. I mean, it's very, very, very simple. And how it came about was the founder, Dr. Samuel Hahnemann, who's a German doctor. he'd sort of turned his back on medicine because people were, you're talking a long time ago now, people were dying from the actual so-called cures like mercury poisoning and, bloodletting, this whole thing. And he turned his back on that. And he was translating a medical textbook and from English actually into German. And he was looking at the quinine, which is, as you know, used for malaria. And the explanation in quinine was that it was because it was bitter. That's why it helped malaria. But he didn't really understand that. So for some reason, nobody knows why, and he didn't have malaria. He started taking quinine. And what happened was he started developing the symptoms of malaria. He stopped taking the quinine and the symptoms disappear. And this is how he started this whole process. What something in a large amount can cause something in a small amount, it can cure it. That is homeopathy. That's it. Yeah. And that's the basis of it. And those remedies we give stimulate the body to heal itself.
So powerful. And it makes me think of people tuning in perhaps to their gin and tonic habits and wondering whether that gives them malaria-like symptoms.
Hey, well, if you take enough of it, maybe, yeah.
Enough of it, you will feel awful.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, that's the basis. So it doesn't need to be complicated. And I think often things that are true are simple,
Yeah. And Marcus, you've obviously gone on to then start a well-known school and collaborate with homeopaths to open other schools. And you would have seen hundreds and hundreds of students come through your doors, thousands. A lot of people ask me in our membership and online, like, how do I distinguish a great practitioner? What are we looking for? What do you see when you think, that person really gets it? And what do we then look for as people seeking practitioner partnership support to really find someone who understands it at a very deep level?
Yeah, it's a really great question. And I think it's like anything, it's like getting a good plumber. I mean, it's slightly different, but it's the same thing, getting a good plumber, good builder, good mechanic, whatever.
Well, lots of people can go to trade school, but then you've got the person who has the magic nose to figure out the point in the pipe that has the weakness, and that's what the problem is. A good diagnostic.
Exactly. So I honestly would say the best form is word of mouth. If you know somebody who is using a homeopath, or you're looking for somebody who may know somebody, go on personal recommendation. I think that is the only way. And then when you speak to, one of the only ways, when you then speak to them, because I always think, you're going to employ these people, you're paying these people for their services. You've got to be able to connect as well at some level. I personally think that's part of the healing journey. Now, if you don't know anybody who's never used a homeopath, then go and speak to an osteopath, go and speak to a chiropractor. They'll know somebody, because we're all in the same sort of whole sort of holistic medicine network. You will find somebody who will be able to be recommended. I'm not a big fan of just going on a list and just choosing somebody, because you don't know really who you're going to get. And, okay, there can be testimonials on there, but I always think the gold standard is always word of mouth. Keep it simple. If you don't know anybody who's used a homeopath, then go to an osteopath, chiropractor, whatever, and speak to them. Phone them up. They'll tell you, because we all refer to, I've got some great osteopaths I know, cranial psychotherapists and, acupuncturists, people like that. I would go and seek that, because and also look whether or not they've come from a credible school. I mean, that's the other thing about, you can ask about their qualifications.
Gosh, you see ads for like homeopathy qualifications and, you go, what, $260?
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
And you're qualified. Like, whoa.
Yeah. That's so true. And that's why, I founded CHE, the Centre for Homeopathic Education, back in London in 1998. And as you said, we trained thousands of people. And we were, ours is a 4-year training, practitioner training, 4 years part-time. You can do 2 years fast track. But, this is an extensive training where we cover, thoroughly anatomy and physiology. We cover, how to take a chronic case, how to take an acute case. I mean, we really build it, and there's clinical work built in as well. So with live patients, it's a proper training. So I always say, be careful of those courses, purely for the fact you cannot go and have depth in homeopathy without doing an accredited training.
Mm.
And as you mentioned, I don't know if you know, but we've just set up a CHE hub in Australia, in Perth.
I do, with the
Yeah,
lovely Eugenie, who I've also had on
absolutely.
the show.
Yeah, yeah, she's
Yeah.
great, Eugenie. So,
Mm.
and we're doing that now all over the world, having hubs. We've already got in Bulgaria and Poland,
Wow.
in Turkey, in Hungary, because I want to really sort of make sure that there's proper training in homeopathy. In fact, I've just come back from Gambia in Africa,
Oh,
where we're doing
wow.
a CHE in Africa because we built a clinic there about 10 years ago now. I've just come back. We just had our reopening because it got completely destroyed through COVID because of all the termites got in and everything. Um,
Mm.
but we've also now got a training where we're giving free training for people in Gambia, scholarships to train to become homeopaths, because we've gone for 10 years, 15 years sort of helping treat them. Now we want them to be independent and they can treat themselves and empower them to be able to qualify and then, really be free of us. So they're independent. So it's a mission
Mm.
that I'm on. It's a huge mission I'm on to really make sure there's really good training around the world in
Yeah,
homeopathy.
I don't think it's ever been more important, especially in the dawning of AI now, or influencer health teaching and people following almost like guru-like personalities. I remember when people started treating me like a guru just for like teaching people in a coaching capacity how to reduce environmental toxins. I was like, no, 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 I'm starting a podcast. We are getting people with huge amounts of qualifications to make sure that we are really responsibly foraying into these subjects rather than just creating compelling content online. And I just think the teach a man to fish so that he can teach a man
Absolutely.
to fish is a very
Exactly.
important part of this from quality
Totally.
sources.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in fact, I said that when I was in Gambia because I did a speech on the opening and I said exactly the same thing. Teach a man a fish, feed him for a day. Sorry,
Mm.
give a man a fish, feed him for a day, teach a man to
Yeah.
fish, feed him for a lifetime. And I agree with you. I think that the thing of the gurus really is over. We're in a whole different space now. To me, it's about communities. And it's
Mm.
about community, whether that's online, whether it's in person. I think it's really about just sharing this information. And there's always positives and negatives with social media, with AI. I mean, I use AI. I've got an AI clone of myself
Mm.
because
Yeah,
my
it's not that it's bad. It's
no,
just that it shouldn't be
it should
the
enhance what you
like
do.
exactly, not replace. And yeah, nothing can replace 4 years of study, like
No,
nothing,
nothing,
and
nothing.
seeing people and working through cases and cases
Yeah.
and cases over years.
Well, you need that
Yeah.
depth of understanding. You need to,
Mm.
like part of our training is the clinical side. I mean, with live people who know it's a training clinic, but they, first observe cases being taken, then taking the cases themselves. And you need that depth of understanding.
Mm.
It's like I said, I always say you become a homeopath. It's not just about learning facts and you become it. That there's an internal process that goes on as well.
Mm.
That you have to really understand what you're doing and develop critical thinking and all those things that are important. But yes, I think we're in an interesting time where yeah, for like we can become a practitioner within 24 hours. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I do, though, in an interesting twist, want to start talking about use at a personal level where you don't have a qualification, because people really are curious and a lot of these remedies are very safe to explore.
Absolutely,
You know,
110%.
over the years, I've bought all sorts of Boiron therapies and, remedies, and they've been really helpful. Everything
Yeah,
from arnica to
yeah,
pulsatilla,
yeah,
nux vomica.
yeah.
As you mentioned, nux vomica as a band name, I then started thinking of like borax,
Yes,
just,
borax. Yeah, that's anthrax.
just my
Borax.
mind started going
Yeah,
through
yeah,
remedies
exactly.
that were
Yeah,
good band
yeah,
names.
yeah, yeah.
Um, what do you think, Marcus, are some of the best ways for us to start to feel more confident
Yeah,
with home use?
yeah. And listen. I am the biggest fan of home use. I mean, I that's why I've written 2 books now. But the latest book, Homeopathy at Home, um, is very much about empowering people to use it at home. So
Mm.
again, it's back to this teacher, man to fish type of thing. They say charity begins at home, health begins at home. It
Yeah.
really does. With ourselves, with our kids, with our family. And homeopathy is so brilliant to use at home. So there's many things that you can use at home when before you need to go and get help, outside help. So, and I think more that, and I really learned this when I first qualified. I set up a mother and baby clinic where I was 23. I knew nothing about kids, but I learned very quickly because, often parents, the kids have got colic, they've got, they can't sleep, whatever reasons, whatever things they came in with, teething, sleepless nights, that whole thing. And they didn't really want to give them any drugs. They didn't really want to keep going to the doctors. And they were looking for an alternative. And so these come to the mother and baby clinic. And then I thought, actually, what I need to do is do a little course on how to use a remedy kit, for example. So again, so they won't just rely on me, that they could learn these remedies themselves. And I used to get them a little remedy kits and show them how to use them. We do a little mini course around the remedy kits, things they could use at home. And what I used to see is these, and mainly it was mothers who'd come back and be so empowered, saying, "Oh, little Johnny had a fever and I gave him belladonna and he was fine." Or, Jenny had a cough and I gave her bryonia and I really saw the difference. And it took people out of a place of fear and worry into a more empowered place of because they had now some knowledge. Now, the good thing about homeopathy is that there's no side effects. So, even if you get the remedy wrong, it's not going to do anything. But if you get it right and stimulate the body to heal itself, then you're going to see the shift and the changes. And I always trust, I trust parents, I trust mothers with their kids. I say, your child better than anybody. Don't let anybody tell you, your child. When you need to take emergency, action. But there's things you can try first before you need to go down that route. And so in my book, I talk about everything A to Z, from coughs, colds, bumps, bruises, to hay fever, to warts. I mean, toothache, a whole sort of, it's really a guidebook.
Oh, what's the warts remedy? Because that comes up a lot. And Thuya. I've tried everything.
Yeah, Thuya is the number one remedy. Yeah, Thuya is the number one remedy for warts. THUJA. Yeah, and that's a great remedy for warts. There's other remedies, but it's your top remedy you're going to think of. And the thing about warts, let's just tell you the example, and this is the sort of homeopathic approach rather than the allopathic. You may say somebody's got reoccurring warts, and they keep getting warts, or they go get a wart, they go to the doctors. What does the doctor do? He burns it off. Now, but often they'll come back and they burn it off. With homeopathy, how we perceive a wart is it's an external manifestation, right? So it's the body's producing it for a reason. Now, if you just keep treating it topically, you're frustrating what we call the vital force, or the chi, or the prana, whatever you want to call it. So you got to treat it internally. So by giving Thuya internally, the wart will disappear of itself. If that makes sense. So I always use the analogy of the car dashboard. If the oil light flashes, it means there's something wrong in the engine. But if you just take the bulb out, or just suppress the symptoms, there's still a problem in the engine, and the car's going to break down 2 or 3 miles down the road. What you need to do is go into the engine, fix the problem, the light will go off by itself.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. Now, can I just clarify something in my mind from two parts of the conversation we've had so far, where you gave the quinine example, and it was the perfectly healthy person who went on to become a doctor, and
he was a doctor. He was a medical doctor. Yeah.
That's right. And he was discovering homeopathic principles for the first time, and he took quinine and got malaria-like symptoms, and that was because he was completely healthy.
That's right.
Now, fast forwarding to where you just were explaining, the good thing about homeopathic remedies is they're safe, and you can't get it wrong because there are no side effects.
Yeah.
Is it because the baby's unwell already and you're just trying to find the right remedy for them, that they don't get it worse in a different way because the remedy's wrong, and so it expresses something different? Do you see where I'm trying to clarify, just for my own?
Yeah, I think so. There's two distinctions. There's one, he was taking the crude substance of quinine. So that was, in the homeopathic version, it's diluted and succussed until there's nothing really left of the material dose.
It's so mild that it's more in the energetic realm.
Exactly.
That's why there's no side effect. Got it. We've got a big global community of nerds, and I always have them on my shoulder thinking, no, we're not leaving that alone until it's
absolutely
clear. Okay.
Yeah, so that's why it's great. And it's also the ultimate in sustainability, because you only need a very small amount of the substance.
Mm-hmm.
but it has a very powerful effect. And if you think about people, and this is often what they have, especially the scientists, some scientists have an issue with it because it's so diluted. And they say, well, how can this have an effect? But you look at hormones, how hormones work within the body. Or you put some, especially where you guys are in Australia, you have a lot of sharks in the water. Well, that's what we're led to believe in England. Put a few drops of put a few drops of blood in the water, and the shark can pick it up. I don't know how many miles away. So, and now with all the research in quantum physics, quantum mechanics,
I was going to say, quantum biology tells us everything we need to know about why these remedies can have a powerful effect.
Exactly. And the fact is, they do have an effect. And like I said, of hundreds of years of clinical experience, and I can tell you personally of 30 odd years of experience, they definitely work.
Yeah. And so now that we know it's very hard for a home dabbler to make a mistake, other than for it to not quite be the right remedy yet.
Yeah. Can
I ask another question then about?
Can I just answer that question again? Sorry, just because it's something. Well, it's in my book, but how you prescribe is really important. So I think again, I'm going to use an analogy, another car analogy. I don't know why I use car analogies because I'm not into cars at all. But think of the remedy. You can't think about it in an allopathic way. So when you take a remedy, it's a bit like if you go to the acupuncturist. It's like what you're doing when you take that remedy, it's stimulating the vital force, okay? So it's stimulating its interaction. It's like when you have an acupuncture needle and into the body, what they're trying to do is unblock the meridians so the chi can flow. So when you give a remedy, what you're looking for is the reaction from that remedy, okay? So you give a dose. So say a child is not unwell, has got a fever, you give the remedy, say belladonna. Often what happens in kids after they take the remedy, within a few minutes, they fall asleep.
Like you with your tonsillitis.
I mean, with tonsillitis. So it's a good sign, it's like the body's healing it. Or you'll see a shift, you'll see some kind of change. And that's what you're looking for. So when you give the remedy, you are then looking at what the reaction is. And you can give it a couple of hours and then say, right, how's the child now? Does it still need that remedy? And if they're doing okay, they go, oh, I'm up having the breakfast, and that's fine. The body's done what you don't need to keep repeating it. So it's a bit like when you put a key in the engine, the ignition, you turn the ignition, the engine runs. You don't keep turning the key unless the engine stops, and then you turn it again. It's the same approach with homeopathy. So you don't need to keep giving it over and over again. It's not like an allopathic course of treatment. You're trying to get that vital force moving so that, because it knows what to do. It's intelligent. It's got innate intelligence. So that's the difference from an allopathic giving a remedy and a homeopathic giving a homeopathic remedy.
Great comparison.
So that's clear.
Very clear. And so when it comes to differentiating what we can do ourselves and when we might need a homeopath for further guidance, what does that line look like with a couple of sort of life examples? Like maybe we have a lot of perimenopausal and menopausal women, for example. So that could be a really good one to use as an
example.
Our major partner, OzClimate, is an Australian offer, and they give you 10% off with the code LowToxLife all year round. A question I get asked often is, do I need a dehumidifier, an air filter, or both? And the thing to remember is an air purification helps reduce the toxic burden of your indoor air across all types of things, from pollens, dust mite, mold, VOCs from building materials. It reduces the level of toxins in your indoor air. Dehumidification reduces the moisture in your indoor air, helping you prevent the growth of mold and the contamination of your soft furnishings, clothes, and of course yourself, because when it's over 60% humidity, mold is then given the perfect environment to grow, all it needs is dust particles or any kind of soft furnishing that it can grab onto, and it will literally start its job of multiplying and decomposing things. So dehumidification is for moisture control, reduction, and of course, therefore, the prevention of the growth of mold in your indoor environment. And air purification is for the overall reduction of toxic burden of a multitude of things for your indoor air. So hopefully that helps answer that question. A big thank you to OzClimate for being our partner, and let's get into the show.
Yeah. So again, very common. I think perimenopause symptoms are often not really talked about so much and very confusing for women.
Oh, we're talking about them now. About that.
Yeah. Well, for a long time,
women, it was very taboo.
Very taboo, very taboo. And also we didn't understand what was happening. It was very confusing. So people weren't talking about it. So, but just for example, say, for example, I know women are getting hot flushes, and there's remedies you can take therapeutically. There's remedies like Alexx, there's remedies like CP, all pulsatilla. There's different remedies you can give.
You can't skim over those, Marcus. There are going to be women all over the world going, "What was that? I need to write it down." So
okay, actually, it's in my book. I actually have hot flushes and flashes in my book. I actually got them in there. So that wasn't a segue into promoting the book, but yeah, I've got a whole section of it. So I've basically taken the top sort of 5 remedies that you can take, like belladonna, Alexx, sepia, sulfur. So remember in homeopathy that 5 women could have hot flashes, for example, hot flushes, but they could have different types of flashes, should I say? So, for example, if somebody need the remedy Alexx, they could feel a rush of blood to the head, and it's this ascending sensation, but they could have a sensation of a constriction in their throat, which is every time they have it. Okay. And they can complain that they don't want anything around the neck, they can't wear scarves anymore. So that's the remedy Alexx. Or you can have another person who has the hot flashes where they feel chilly all the time, okay, but they suddenly get awake at night with these hot flashes, and they're intolerant of the family, and they're really pissed off with the partner, and they don't want anybody around them. But if they go exercise, they feel so much better. And that's the remedy sepia. So what we're looking at in homeopathy, it's very individual. There's just not one remedy for hot flashes like there is in allopathic medicine or different things that people take. What we're looking for is what's your characteristic symptoms, and match the remedy according to that. So 5 women could have 5 different remedies that they need according to their characteristic symptoms. Now, what was the original question? I went off on that. Oh, menopause. So when to go see a practitioner. So you could give these remedies. You could be taking sepia. You could be taking Alexx. You could be taking sulfur, and it helps. Yeah. But it keeps coming back. So it's just like palliative.
So it's very safe for us.
Very safe.
To read the book, go, oh yeah, that sounds more like my sort of sensation, and I'm going to try that remedy. And damn, it's feeling good in the moment, but it's coming back.
It keeps coming back.
I feel like I'm solving things at a deeper level.
Exactly. Okay. And you've got to listen to your body, because what can happen when you take the remedy, not only can the hot flashes be really help, but other things, people notice they're sleeping better, because what it's like CP, for example, it's not trying to balance the hormones or trying to, so you may feel, but if it keeps coming back, I would then say, okay, you probably need to go and see a homeopath. So I said that in my book, if symptoms persist, whether it's an acute situation, whether it's a chronic situation, you can try things to help. But like I've got things in there for constipation. Now people can be constipated for like 10 years. Now you could try some remedies and it could help for a while, but you may need some deeper remedies that aren't in the book and you wouldn't particularly know about, because you need a homeopath who's got that experience to be able to go deeper into the chronic state.
So it's almost, well, it's not almost like, I think it actually is like the fact that homeopathy does have both the quick fix and then the deeper unpack.
Absolutely, 110%.
In the one modality.
Yes.
Which is interesting, because there's not, allopathic medicine doesn't have that. It's quick fix Band-Aid and, oh crap, here it comes again. And it's back to the quick fix Band-Aid. There isn't the deeper thing.
Exactly. So hence why the training is a substantial training, because you're dealing with acute situations, you're dealing with chronic situations. And actually, I'm going to go a step beyond that. In homeopathy, we have a concept of miasms, which came from Hahnemann, and basically this is the theory of chronic disease. And this was really what he discovered was so way ahead. It took him 12 years work on this, because he kept getting patients kept coming back. So we give them remedies, but it kept coming back. The situation kept coming back. And so and I'm giving a very, very brief general overview of this, but basically what it was your predisposition to certain diseases. And that's looking at the family history, that's looking at your own medical history. And through that, what a miasm is, it's an old-fashioned term, but basically means like the actual definition is a taint, or it's something that, basically is a what's the word, like a disorder, but it's things we've inherited from our parents or grandparents. So as a homeopath, we take the history of both sets of parents, mother, father, father's father, father's mother, mother's mother. We go all the way, and we're looking at things that they've inherited. And then we look at the person sat in front of us. So some things people can have, but it's something they've inherited. So, for example, if they've got eczema or they've got asthma, then you look at the family history and it goes way back. There could have been eczema there, or allergies or whatever. So this is what we call an active miasm, and this predisposition. So what we do, the chronic treatment, you can give the indicated remedy, but the people keeps coming back, the same condition. Then you need to give it a miasmatic remedy, which helps push this back and helps sort of neutralize this predisposition.
Almost like the Chinese medicine doctors create the yin to the yang presentation that someone tends towards.
Yes. So that, can you see now, really it's quite a complete system of medicine. We'll deal with so many things, mentally, emotionally, physically, whatever people's come in with. But what we're doing is looking at it holistically. When did it start? This is a real key point, I feel, for homeopathy. Sorry, I'm going on here on my soapbox. But say somebody comes in with migraines. They've had terrible migraines. You take all the symptomatology of the migraines, and then the first question you ask is, when did it all start? Oh, it started 5 years ago. What was happening in life 5 years ago? Now, often people have never been asked that question.
The power of timelining is so vastly underestimated.
Oh, underestimated. This is your map. This is the map of your life. This is the map, and the best time.
The never been well since.
Never been well since. And we see it all the time in homeopathy, all of the time. And normally you can just go to that. It could be a shock. It could be a grief. It could be and that can be acute as well as chronic, So it's so important. The best time to have a map, as they say, is before you get into the woods. So, everybody should do their own timeline.
Yeah.
Mentally, emotionally, physically, things that have happened to them. So, it's a big, thank you. I don't know whether I'm actually answering the questions. I seem to go off into these tangents.
No, we love a good tangent. We were talking about
when to refer, when to go and see a homeopath.
When to refer and when to know, oh, actually, I need to have a deeper conversation. And I think what we've surmised is that you can absolutely try remedies and have quick relief and periodical relief, but if it keeps coming back, that's when there's something deeper you need to work on. That's when the practitioner is your point of call. Great.
Exactly. Especially if it's a chronic problem you've had for a number of years, you can try some remedies, but you may find it will palliate that. But you need to, like I said, you need to go deeper.
Now, one of the biggest poo-poos of homeopathy is there's no credible research, and so what do you say to that? And is there? And we're just not actually looking in the right places when those sorts of things are said.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. So you ask me, what do I say? I mean, often if people say, "Oh, homeopathy is a load of rubbish, there's no evidence," I always say to people, "Oh, what's your experience of it?" Well, I read that. Oh, you read something, Why don't you try it? Try it out.
I heard on Instagram the version of truth telling. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's interesting because there was a lot of real attacks on homeopathy, especially from 2007, pretty much up to the sort of like 2017, 18, from very organized skeptics. I'm not going to get into the whole of this, but people had, with their own agendas and organizations with their own agendas, because really, when you're talking about homeopathy or anything, any modality like this, you're talking about people empowering themselves. Now, I don't want to get into the whole pharmaceutical sort of
No, I
thing.
know exactly what you would say if you could say it in 45 seconds versus 45 minutes. I'm going to have a crack. It is that we cannot assume that a system that has been built on profit since the advent of GDP theory, and that now has been accelerated by political influence in terms of just being able to quite freely in many so-called democracies around the world now influence politicians to vote certain ways on certain bills. We see it in environmental toxins over the decades, over and over again. We see it in fossil fuels over the decades, over and over again. I mean, there's so many examples that really what we see poo-pooed in any kind of conventional sense doesn't necessarily deserve that poo-poo with this level of influence that now exists
Yeah,
beyond a lot of people's awareness.
exactly.
So to come back to the how do we know this works quantifiably? Where is the evidence? What do we have?
So basically, what I say to people, it does work. There's plenty of stuff going on around the world. Studies, there's studies all over the world. If you go to the Homeopathic Research Institute, which is based in the UK, it was set up by one of my graduates, Dr. Alexander Tonnier. And when he was a third-year student at CHE, I said to him, this is back in 2008, I said, what we need, instead of scientists on the outside looking in, we need scientists in the inside looking out who really understand homeopathy. I became one of the first trustees of the Homeopathic Research Institute, and now it's grown into an international organization. So I'd say to people, go and check it out. Check out all the research that's been done around the world, from Cuba to India. You have to remember, in India, 100 million people use homeopathy as their primary healthcare. There's homeopathic hospitals like there was in the UK, and there still is in the UK. So there's plenty of research out there. One of the most interesting areas, and we have lots of veterinary homeopaths. Vets who use homeopathy. These are traditional vets who use homeopathy. But the biggest area I find of research very interesting is in what's called agro-homeopathy, where they're using homeopathy in agriculture, where they're spraying the crops. Say they've got a particular parasite, they spray the crops with a homeopathic remedy. And they're seeing crop yields. There was one study done on a cotton, something like 500 acres of cotton. And they sprayed it. There's a particular, I think it was, I don't know, I'm not up on diseases of cotton, but there was a particular disease of a cotton plant. And it increased their crop yield by 30% by spraying them. So the biggest thing that is held against homeopathy is placebo. I think placebo is any therapeutic situation can apply. But when you start going into the realms of animals, as in like farm animals, farmers use homeopathy on their animals. When you start going into crops, then the whole thing of like placebo to me starts to weaken.
Yeah.
Because crops, now, yes, we can talk to our plants, but 500 acres of cotton, I mean, that's a whole different ball game. So I'd say to everybody, just look at the research. The research is out there. The Homeopathic Research Institute, the HRI, is one of the best places to get your resources. So my answer when the people say there's no research, I say there's plenty of research. And we have scientists on our faculty who were scientists before they became trained to become homeopaths on our faculty. Because for 17 years we were a degree course. People get the BSc in homeopathy, and part of that was research. So that's my answer to that. There is plenty of research out there. And back to the pharmaceutical industry, and I totally agree with you. Yeah, I always say the pharmaceutical industry is not in the wellness business; it's in the sickness business. And as long as you know that, as long as you're aware of that, that's fine, because you understand they're a business, they're there to make money, but
And
they're not
they're
in the
also
wellness.
there for crisis. And the
Yes, exactly.
crisis part,
Yes,
you can't really take that away from modern medicine because it actually has answered an incredible need.
well, I always say it's a scale. If I'm in when I trained as a homeopath, I worked in hospitals for 3 years. I always say it's a scale. If I'm in a car accident, the first place I want to be is a hospital. Now, maybe taking arnica if I'm conscious in the ambulance, which did happen to me. But if I've got a chronic disease, I'm going to look at other ways to try to get my body to heal itself before I go down that drug and surgery route. So emergency medicine, amazing. but it's a scale, and you've just got to decide where you sit on that scale.
It
But
is. And I think speaking about chronic illness, given the proliferation of it over the last few decades, everything from autoimmune disease to increased allergies, what are you seeing? Given you've been practicing for over 30 years, you've obviously seen a change. What are a couple of the biggest ones for you?
I think it. Well, it's, oh God, where do we start? I think it. I think there's so much. I think it's a combination. I think it's generational. For example, just take the contraceptive pill. In the 60s, now we've got generation after generation after generation. That remember the contraceptive pill, you can't take it out of the water supply. So I think we've got generational. We're talking about drugs now. We're talking about the effect of drugs on the body through now generations. I think you're talking about environmental. I think huge impact there, from plastics to our food. I mean, people say to me, we're talking about a patient come and we're talking about food and different things. People say, what shall I eat? I say, well, try to eat real food. Well, what do you mean? Honestly, I can't believe people say to me, what do you mean? I say, well, if it comes out of a box, or if your great-grandmother or grandmother wouldn't recognize it, then that's not real food, right? It's like they've got to... It's really interesting how people have lost that connection in a lot of ways. So I think it's environmental. I think it's the food that we eat. I think it's the drugs. I think it's lack of movement. I think it's a lot of things. I think there's such a combination. I even go back to when I was a kid. I was watching something on YouTube the other day about the 70s and how we just played out all the time. I don't know what it was like with you guys, but we were out all the time.
All the time.
Everything's just arranged. Play dates are arranged. So kids they're on the screens. I mean, I was listening to a report today on the radio saying they're under 5 who have got access to social media. You go to a restaurant. You go to a restaurant, the kids have just got an iPad in front of them. There's no interaction. The parents are on the phone. It's like, I think it's a much bigger picture than just one thing.
It's so much bigger picture. And I often make sure that people understand it's also quite privileged to think that things like policy and public health and middle class erosion through wealth concentration and things like that aren't playing a role as well. Like it's so much bigger, and it's not personal responsibility. Yes, of course we can make better choices at an individual level, but if everything's stacked against you, humans are wired for the simplest, easiest option. So of course we're going to pick it. That's like millions of years of genetic evolution for us to be that way. And so,
well, I think, there's such pressure, and it's often commercial pressure, isn't it? It's that commercial pressure.
And that's when it becomes a privilege to avoid commercial pressure. We hear of the tech billionaires whose kids have never seen an iPad, and we hear of the...
What does that tell you?
Yeah, exactly. But
also
the tech billionaires whose kids have never had an antibiotic. And that's because they can afford the functional medicine private doctor and the this and the that and the access, right?
Yes.
So that's why it's much bigger than personal responsibility.
Well, that's why for my own practice, I've always had a 10% tithe, that people that generally can't afford homeopathy, I have a 10% tithe in my practice. Also, we run 8.
I love that.
Well, because I feel that people shouldn't have access to homeopathy just purely by their ability to pay. Also, we run 8 low-cost clinics for people at CHE, so people can access low-cost homeopathy, people who can't afford it. So I think it should always be accessible to people. But like you said, I think it's a combination. I think we also do have to take personal responsibility. But like you said, you've got to balance that out with that commercial pressure, as you said, of not everybody can afford these things, or even decent food.
But I think you've tapped into something there, Marcus, in that if we really want to say complementary medicine is the way forward for general health, building and healing beyond crisis kind of situations, which are apart, then we all have to make a concerted effort to make part of our practice an accessibility piece.
Yes.
so
Yes.
that it isn't privileged and shut off, and
Yes.
only if you can afford the
Yes.
$500 initial consult and $2,000 worth of testing and then $10,000 worth of
Yes.
treatments. And
Exactly.
like, it can get really
Yeah.
crazy, and then it leaves the average Joe thinking, oh, well, I guess I can't be healthy then. And that's
Yeah.
awful
It really is
when
awful.
you
Yeah.
really can be.
And that's the thing about homeopathy. It's cheap. So that's why I say to everybody, you can go to, health food store and have some of these remedies. I mean, the first thing
Yeah.
I would say to get is get yourself a remedy kit, where it's got all the remedies in there, and you can use that at the home. That has 36 remedies. And they will last a while, but they will deal with most things you can deal with. And I think it's these things you can do, but also, look, I'm into the biohacking. I've been biohacking for a long time, and the biohacking thing can be so expensive, as you know. But the
Well,
simple
there's
things,
commercial
yes,
biohacking and
yeah,
there's intuitive
yes,
biohacking,
exactly,
right?
yeah.
Yeah,
And there's
there's two
things you
different
can do that are
things.
simple, like you said, going outside, getting the sunlight for 10 minutes in the morning, breathing. There's some really basic things you can do. Eat real food, sleep. That's the biggest things. You'd ask me what I've seen the biggest issue with? Sleep.
Yeah.
Sleep I've seen deteriorate with people um, over the past 30 odd years. And I do
Mm,
blame things. I do blame this. People
yeah.
sleep with that next to their head on, and they're coming in with insomnia. Because the first question I'll say is, do you have a mobile phone yet? Where is it? Oh, I have it by the side of my bed. Or whereabouts? Right? Yeah, I use it as an alarm. And it's on. It's just simple little things that people do, and which can have a huge effect on their health and well-being.
Yeah, absolutely. I have so many more questions I want to ask you, but I'm going to try and fit. Have we got another few minutes? Is that
Yeah, of
okay
course,
with you for
absolutely.
us to
Yeah,
go over?
I'll carry on talking till the cows come home. Yeah,
All right, you've given me permission. Here we go. So, in terms of vitality, you've
yeah,
mentioned that a couple of times.
yeah,
Obviously, sleep plays,
yeah,
good quality sleep
yeah,
plays into that sense of
yes, yeah,
vitality. So, can we spend a little bit of time on remedies, various presentations of, say, insomnia, or not being able to get to sleep, or waking up and then not being able to get back to sleep, or
yes,
those kinds of things, and how we can actually start to work on our sleep to set the stage for better vitality as a bit of a foundation?
yeah. Well, I think sleep. Sleep. When people come in, I would talk about the 4 pillars of health, and I call it meds: meditation, mindfulness. Got to be done. We have to have some kind of practice. The research on the effect on the immune system is just off the scale. Thousands of studies. We have to have some kind of, I call it meditation. I'm old school. I've been meditating since I was like 23. But whatever it is you do, you can use an app, whatever, but you have to have some form of, I think, practice on a daily level. E is for exercise or movement. People need to move. The Swedish study came out. You saw it, but saying now sitting down is more dangerous than smoking, particularly for men. Men sitting down, the amount of issues, I treat a lot of men with prostate issues, and most of the time they are sat down constantly, sat down, either commuting to work, traveling to work, at the desk, whatever they're doing. You need to move. D is for diet and nutrition, as we said, eat real food. But sleep, of all those 4, is, as you know, the biggest contributor to health and well-being, or lack of it has such an effect on our health.
Yeah.
So I forgot the question. Sorry, I was ranting then. But sleep,
Well, we're
yes,
working on our sleep,
yeah,
some ideas for
yeah,
dabbling in
in
remedies
better
that we
sleep.
might try on our own
Sure,
first.
sure,
Yeah.
sure. So before we get into that, the remedies is preparation is key for sleep, as we know. We all know, we've heard this. Don't use your online, or whether it's on your phone or whatever, before sleep. Really getting prepared for sleep. But again, many people can have different reasons for not sleeping. So some people can be overtired. Some people have disturbed sleep. They may be nursing a sick person, or a loved one, or an ill child, and they've just had nights of broken sleep, or maybe being a new mum. Now, a good remedy for that is cocculus, the remedy cocculus, Cocculus. And this is basically of not getting enough sleep, okay? And also they have been disturbed a lot. But cocculus, they are often they get into a fear about not getting enough sleep, being
I've been
disturbed.
there.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they feel like they're hollow. They just feel they've got nothing left to give. It's a great remedy for jet lag as well. Or I've used it for people, aircrew, when they're flying different time zones.
Oh, that's a good one.
So cocculus is a really good remedy. Somebody that can't switch off the brain, like we talked about this earlier on, rush of ideas, the whole nervous system is wound up. Slightest noise, they wake up.
Also been there.
Or there's agitation. It's like the whole nervous. It's like the on one side, but then they turn on, they can't get to sleep. But any slightest noise is like the whole nervous system is so keyed up that they just wake up. And that's the remedy coffea. We mentioned it earlier. Coffee is called coffea cruda. Coffea, what's spelled coffee? COFFEA, and then cruda, CRUDA. Very easy to get hold of. And then you think of, there's another remedy called, well, here's a good one. Again, we've talked about it as well, nux vomica. So nux vomica is where they cannot switch off from work, particularly work. So this is your business person.
So it's more like
remedy.
a stress insomnia.
It's a stress, yeah. It's like they wake up. Often with nux vomica, they may be drinking coffee to wake up, get themselves going in the morning. It's like go, go, go. They could be running their own business. It's normally to with ideas and business and things like that. And you have to drink
that too. Oh my
and they
God.
have to drink alcohol. So they get home and they'll drink alcohol. They have to drink at night in order to wind themselves down.
That I don't need. So that's okay. Thank God. I'm now starting to feel a little bit better about myself.
But it's again, it's a bit like coffee. The nervous system is really wound up. But the thing with the alcohol is they'll drink and it takes the edge off, right? And they can go to sleep, but then they wake up when the alcohol wears off. So they wake up at 3 a.m. and they're waking up.
Such a false sense of security that way.
Yeah,
if you're using it for that.
Exactly. And so they wake up with the same issues they had when they took the alcohol in the first place. So it's basically they wake up at 3 a.m. and they've got, the same issues and they lie awake until morning. A lot of mental strain. People going through mental strain often will crave alcohol, will crave coffee. So again, when we're trying to differentiate between the remedies, we're looking at what makes people better for worse. Nux vomica is better for napping, better for like warm milk as well in the evening. If they woke up in the middle of the night, if they have some warm milk, that will often put them back. But they're worse for rich food, so they'll get indigestion and things like that. So there's just three sort of main sort of remedies which are good for insomnia. But again, it depends on what their symptoms are. What makes them better, what makes them
And then
worse.
again, if you find yourself needing one of those remedies and it gave you some support, but then it's like every night is the same and you take it again and again, and now you're on like this thing permanently, that's when you need the practitioner.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, there's other things you can take from the sort of like the home kitchen cupboard remedies, which I talk about in my book. Chamomile tea. When I wrote the book, chamomile, on my recent chamomile, I mean, it's phenomenal, chamomile.
It is.
But chamomile tea, we all know it, but do it, use it, have a bit of fun with it, and it really is good for inducing sleep. The key about sleep is that it's really, you've got to have sleep hygiene. In other words, your bedroom should be a sanctuary. You shouldn't have a mobile phone in your room. I say to people, and they have it next to their room, I say, turn it off. Oh no, there might be an emergency. I say, well, how many emergencies have you had in the past 6 months? None. How many in a year? None. But what if? So we live in this whole hyped up society. So we'll
that
put it
says everything that we need to know about the state of the modern nervous system, doesn't it? We're
totally keyed
alert.
On alert. So put it on the landing, close the door. You shouldn't have anything on in the room, anything electromagnetic. I mean, I sleep with a grounding mat. I have a grounding sheet, which I have.
Me too.
Yeah, which are amazing. I mean, I've got some really, I've got some other gadgets we won't go into now. That's probably for another time. But that is so crucial that and a great book for people to listen who are listening to read is Why Do We Sleep by Martin Walker. Such a great book.
Agree.
It's such a great book. And they say, he says in the book, when the hours go back and forward, especially when they go forward and we lose an hour, heart attacks spike on the Monday morning. So that shows you just 1 hour of sleep, the effect it can have on the whole system. Crucial. And we all know, don't we? We all know. We know, we've all, if we've got kids and stuff, or you know what sleep deprivation does to you. You feel like you're losing your mind.
Oh, 100%. It happened to me a couple of weeks ago. I had a huge deadline. There were a number of pressures that meant that I was getting probably 2, 3 hours less sleep than I normally would. And that went for about a week. And it was such a good reality check.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
pins and needles in the hand,
Yeah.
the scattiness like on steroids, the really poor tolerance for any kind of change of plan or
Yeah.
curveball.
Yeah.
Everything just fell apart and I would just cry. I just thought, whoa, that's just one little week. And then I think of new parents and I think of people caring for elderly parents or a
Yeah.
very sick partner or all the
Yeah.
things that life throws at you, redundancies,
Yeah.
climate crisis, and people
Yeah.
worried about that or
Yeah.
it's a lot, and we
It's a lot.
have to look after ourselves.
Yeah. Well, and that, like you said, it's the nervous system, and anything you can do to help the nervous system, especially the vagus nerve. I won't go into that now. Just things, but what these remedies do, just like that
Well, now
state.
we're back to singing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, yeah. Well, it's funny
mhm.
because I've been thinking about it recently. I'm going to really get back into singing again because I was a
Me
singer,
too.
and
Yeah.
I really miss it. I really, really miss it. But it's doing those things that really help us and help really nurture that nervous system. Because when, as you mentioned, what you were like the other week, that sort of any slightest change of routine, because you're just holding it together, but that's your nervous
Mm.
system. It's like it can't take any, and that's very nux vomica.
Yeah,
Very,
okay.
you can either burst into tears or you can get really angry,
Ooh,
right?
so if that was only a couple
Explode.
of weeks ago, would it be
Yeah.
good for me to just do a couple of days
No, I think you're fine. It's
support? I'm
again,
okay now.
you're okay.
Okay.
So
I
again, if
feel
you're
like
okay,
I'm okay because I
then you're
really
fine.
listened
Then you're
and I
fine.
really rested.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. And that's the thing.
yeah.
So again, we can get sort of a bit caught up in, oh my God, this, and maybe I need this because no, if you're okay, remember, your body's got all the healing wisdom. And if it's gone back, we have innate health. It's a bit like a snow globe. You do a snow globe and it's all crazy and snowy. And then all of a sudden it settles. And that's the same with our vitality. It can rebalance. It's when it gets stuck that we need the help.
Mm.
And then
Yeah.
we've got to see, how do we enhance it so it doesn't go back into those states?
Okay, so let's ask that question.
How do we rebalance it? Well,
Mm.
here's a good example. So I just come back from Gambia, Africa, as I mentioned. The first thing I did when I got there, went outside, stood on the grass. I grounded, right? Biggest thing you can do after a flight. So well, I could go on and on about these different things. There was no jet lag, which was good, but I still took the remedy arnica. So arnica is good for any because the flight itself is not
Mm.
helpful to the body, as you know.
No,
Recycle
it's
air,
not.
the
And actually,
radiation.
in a lot of airport pharmacies, I've bought it for years now. It's a homeopathic little long haul,
Yeah,
tab of,
yeah,
say, 48 tablets for your
yeah,
return trip as
yeah,
well, that you take, however, I think it's like once every couple of hours or
yeah,
whatever, all
yeah,
throughout the flight.
yeah,
I haven't had bad jet lag since I
yeah,
started that. I can't
yeah,
even remember the brand name, but it's, I can't actually just can't remember.
yeah. But it's
But
arnica. Yeah.
yeah, arnica's definitely in there.
So what arnica is good for is any shock or trauma. Everybody should carry it in their car. My son's got it in his bag for soccer.
I have it in my
Anywhere.
purse. I
In
have
your
it in my
purse.
glove box. I have it in the
I
toiletries.
cannot tell you
It's
the
everywhere.
effect of
Yeah.
that remedy.
Mm.
Chronically, people never been well since they're banged on the head, 10 years ago, to falling over, and somebody hurt themselves. Arnica is such a phenomenal remedy. And, everybody should have it. I mean, it should be in every ER department, A&E department, because it's so good. So, yeah, so there you go. So the arnica, and it's funny because I used to treat a guy who used to run a boxing gym.
Oh,
And he would
wow.
swear with these remedies for the recovery of his boxers. And what he used to do, he used to put arnica into the water bottle that the fighters drank, in between rounds. And he swore that it had such a massive effect. Now, I don't know how ethical this was because, they've been bashed and then they sit down and he gives them the thing and he's like, bing, they're back again. But he swore there was no injury. The injuries went down. There was other remedies we gave, but he said
Well, this
arnica
is a
was
kind
the
of
best thing.
drink spiking that we can definitely condone.
Yeah,
No,
exactly.
no
I mean,
one
they
was
knew they were
harmed
taking
in
it.
this.
I think they knew they were
Yeah,
taking it, but I
yeah.
don't know. It's like So you can give it preempt. So arnica, just that one remedy. If anybody takes anything away today, arnica before surgery, after surgery, it can completely utter, because what you're doing is preparing the body for the trauma. So if you go to the dentist, I mean, to me, I think you're a bit of the dentist out there, but a bit of a sort of a sadist, really, dentistry, because it's pretty full on, isn't it? Pulling people's teeth out and all the stuff you do. Now, the body, even though you have an anesthetic, the body sees it as an assault on the body. So it's a violation. You're being, things being ripped out or filled or drilled. So that's why by giving arnica before, arnica afterwards, and maybe for a few hours afterwards, it can neutralize that trauma. Okay, that's what you're doing. You're just trying to bring back to the point, innate health, back to balance again. And that's what remedies do. They take you back. They take you back into balance.
So the vitality piece in the homeopathic perspective is not about stimulation. It's about restoring balance, and then the vitality just is.
Exactly. So you're stimulating the vital force to get into a rhythm, back into rhythm again. Yeah. And the body's about rhythm, the rhythm of the seasons, the rhythm, our internal rhythms, that innate rhythm that we all have. And it's about just getting back into that rhythm. And it's like when we're out of rhythm, like you said about not being able to sleep, it's like we're like this. It's like we can't, think about music, rhythm, think about dance, everything's rhythm.
Yeah.
And that's what we've got to think about, rhythm and consistency with that.
Love that. Feeling very clear at this point, Marcus. We're doing
well. That's good.
Yep, it's good. I know people are going to be like, "Oh, I get it. I'm totally going to try that." That's what I always think when I interview practitioners. I want people to feel like I have enough knowledge now to actually act. Because otherwise it's just gratuitous, tons of knowledge.
Exactly.
But the action piece is the part where you feel confident enough to try something.
Yeah. Exactly. And that's my main goal. I mean, look, my vision since I found about homeopathy is to enhance the health and well-being of humankind through the application education of homeopathy. That has been my North Star for 5 years, because I know what homeopathy can do. Like I said, I've just come back from Africa. The last time I treated on Monday before I flew back last week, and we saw 60 people, all different things. And people have walked 2 or 3 days to get to the clinic to be treated.
Wow.
And we've treated over nearly 30,000 people over the last sort of 12, 13 years for free. I know what homeopathy can do. The community knows what homeopathy can do there. So that's why people say that homeopathy doesn't work and blah, blah, blah. And I go, okay. It's like saying the grass is blue or the sky's green. It's like, I know it works. I've seen it.
I like your question because it's not spiteful or anything. It's just simple. What's your experience with it?
Yeah.
And then, I read. Oh, so you don't have an experience with it. Okay. And that just gets to kind of percolate in their own head later.
Yeah. And it's good to be skeptical. Sorry, just to finish that point, it's great to be skeptical. I'm not saying you can be skeptical, but don't be blind to the results of it. And
there's a difference between skeptical and closed.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
Okay, I have a few short questions. Consider it like a gentle rapid fire.
Okay.
if such a thing existed.
Okay, I'm ready.
Off the top of your head, a remedy that no one realizes they need until they use it.
God, that's a big remedy. A big question.
First one that comes to mind.
I think actually what we said about sleep, cocculus. I mean, people get so because people's sleep can be so bad and so poor, and people not really realizing it, and they live with it. I've often seen that when people have cocculus, I've given them what a big effect it has on them, where they can deeply sleep again. Because we all know what it's like when we can deeply sleep and how we feel when we wake up. So that's the first remedy. Maybe because we've been talking about it, it's front of mind, but it is one of those remedies.
Yeah, but what I really took from you explaining the power of that remedy was that it addresses the modern, I'm scared I'm not getting the sleep I need. That depletion piece that then sets off a fear loop.
Absolutely.
So, I think that's really powerful.
Yeah.
I know we've already mentioned arnica, so I'm going to make you mention a different one here, but a remedy you would never travel without.
God. well, Arnica. God, there's so
Cheater.
many. Huh?
You cheated. Come
Yeah, well,
on.
depends what
The second one.
depends where I was going. So if I was, depends where I'm traveling to.
Ooh.
So if I'm
Okay.
traveling to another
Hold on.
country,
Let me tell you where you're traveling to. I'm looking across the globe and you're going to India.
yeah, so I'd probably take the remedy arsenicum. So arsenicum is a great remedy for food poisoning, diarrhea, deli belly. I mean, I've had it in India. The big thing about, I remember being in India with my wife at the time, and I'd had some off the street, as in like a fruit juice. Always the things you should never do, and I did it, and I got terrible diarrhea and stomach cramps, and I remember saying to her, I think I'm going to die, right?
Oh,
And that is a keynote for the remedy arsenicum, because remember it has mental, emotional, physical symptoms. One of the keynotes of
wow.
arsenicum is it thinks it's going to die. And she said to me, "You need some arsenicum," and because we're in
Wow.
India, you
I
can get
wish I'd known that when I had the worst of the worst mold poisoning from a severely water damaged place that gave me so many symptoms that I honestly thought, this is
yeah,
it. I'm
this
going
is
to
it.
die soon. Yeah.
That's exactly what
Okay.
arsenicum, and it can be worse
Powerful.
also, very powerful. But also it can be from anything, from bad meat, from shellfish, from watery fruits. That's where I got it from, or contaminated water. So that's a good remedy to have if you're traveling in places like that.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of weakness, a lot of despair of getting better, weakness, and yeah, it's and craves water, but small sips of water.
Ooh, okay. That's very specific. Love that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
A patient transformation that still gives you goosebumps.
Patient transformation that still gives you goosebumps. Wow, God, there's so many, so many.
Who's in your
I,
head
I
right
think,
now?
well, there's a guy that I treated who came to see me. He was only in his 40s and he had chronic heart failure.
Ooh.
And this is a case in itself. Chronic heart failure. He couldn't even get up the steps to the clinic. He had pulmonary edema, water on his lungs. And I took his case and I gave him a remedy called Crataegus, which is hawthorn berry in very low potency. But actually, it had been caused by being on a medication for 20 years for
Ooh.
gout.
Ooh.
And he just kept getting repeat prescriptions. But in my research, I found out in America there'd been research on this drug and it causes heart failure in people. And he was only 42, young kids, had to give up his job. And I could see it was the drug that was causing the problem. I gave him the remedy Crataegus, which is for hawthornberry, which is for the heart in a low potency, just to get his heart functioning again. That was the main thing I had to deal with. And within 24, 48 hours, he messaged me and said that the edema had gone from his lungs because he was spitting into a cup when he was with me. There was so much edema. It's an incredible story. Probably haven't got time for it now. But then we could get the one thing in homeopathy which I haven't even mentioned yet. When you go and see a homeopath, and this is not home prescribing, we can give drugs back in homeopathic potency. So if you've never been well
Yes.
since taking a drug, we can give it back in homeopathic potency, which will get rid of the side effects from that drug. This is what I did with this gentleman. I gave him the drug back and got his doctor to wean him off the drug for this because he didn't have gout. He'd been on it for 20 years. Cut a long story short, this guy went back to work within 7 or 8 months. He was back at work. He phoned me one day saying, I'm really unwell. I said, I'm thinking, oh my goodness, it's all coming back. I said, what's the matter? He said, I got a really big pain in my feet. I said, whereabouts? He said, my big toe. And I said, that's gout. So what happens in homeopathy, you go back to the timeline. The original issue that he had, which was gout, which he'd had 20 years previously, had now come back to be dealt with. And we gave him the remedy he
Wow.
should have had 20 years ago. Gout disappeared and he was fine.
Literally peel back the layers of the onion to get to the
Exactly.
original
That's what we
problem.
do. We peel back like the timeline, you go back through time.
Mm. Yeah, Eugenie's talked about this, and I think that was like a just another depth of understanding that I got to on that. Is, sometimes you just got to hear it a couple of times when you're not in
Absolutely.
that field.
Yeah.
Really, really well put. Okay. And then I guess one final thought for everyone listening to perhaps channel the most vital year yet for themselves, given we are finishing a year and starting a new one soon?
So what was the question again? Sorry, I missed the first part.
A vitality tip for
Vitality tip.
having a kind of like a best year yet sounds like some
Yes.
kind of like, vanilla trash magazine article. But like, could you be your most vital self yet? Could you actually feel better than you've ever felt next year? What do you think something everyone could focus on that would help draw them closer to that?
Actually, what comes to mind is probably what not you expect. Is kindness. I think
Oh, I love that we've finished here. This has been a huge focus for me.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
yeah,
culture of I, especially amplified in this social media era, is this self-obsession and worry and panic and like just share your freaking veggie box with your neighbors if you've got too much. Like I've
absolutely.
been really bringing it back to basics and the depth of goodness that kindness
Yeah,
feels is
absolutely,
health giving. I totally agree.
absolutely. I
No,
think
so
kindness. Yeah,
I love that that came up.
yeah, yeah.
How has it played out for you? What does that look like?
For me
Mm,
personally, I think just coming back from Gambia, and just seeing how that community operates amongst themselves, the gratitude that they have about life, because it's an extremely poor country, Gambia. Extremely. I've been to many countries in the world and traveled and backpacked and all different places, and there's so much poverty in Gambia. But the kindness that they do have to each other around sharing, as we're just talking about,
mm,
because they need each other. They need each other, and I think we need each other.
yeah.
But kindness starts with ourselves. We have to be kind to ourselves,
Mm,
but also then that then helps us be kind to others. But actually, when we are kind to others, we also then kind to ourselves. It's like it's a beautiful loop.
mm,
One of the most profound books that I ever read is, I don't know if you've read it, is Humankind. It's
yeah.
a beautiful book. I
It
really
is
and
beautiful.
it really, and I think we need to. That's why I love that word, humankind. It's like
Mm,
we need to be kind to each other. I think that's that there's so much division in the world. There's so much polarity in the world. There's so much about the eye, but I think we're moving out of that. I think we're moving into a time of
agreed.
of kindness to each other, and I think that's what we've got to hold on to, that love for each other and the love for ourselves.
Well, what a beautiful place to finish a rather epic journey through the many magics of homeopathy. Thanks so much for joining me on the show, Marcus. I've really enjoyed it.
I've
And
loved it. I've
yeah,
loved it. Thank you for your great questions. I mean, fantastic. Thank you so much. I'd love to come back.
awesome. There's definitely a part two energy here. So we will be seeing you
Thank
next
you.
year.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you for joining us in listening to this week's show. If you're not already subscribed or following the show on whatever platform you listened, please do that now. It helps enormously in terms of getting this show out to more people. Another way you can connect and support the work we do so that we can support you in your low tox life is join us in the Low Tox Club. You'll get access to amazing member masterclasses where we invite some of our best show guests for a live Q&A with members. You also have great shopping discounts from low tox businesses and honestly, the nicest low tox community Facebook group that exists on the internet. I do hope you join us there. It costs just the price of a coffee a month on average. Head to lowtoxlife.com, hit the Explore tab, and Low Tox Club is the first option there. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next week.